So you have to be kind of pleased with the way the season started so far. You guys have been able to notch some W's and get some experience for some of the younger guys.
Well, I think that's been the big thing, and you know, this week is an important week for us when you look at playing 5 games in 8 days, really. You know, I think we'll know a lot more about ourselves, kind of the grit that you have to kind of approach a week like this, and also, you know, how we respond. I thought we responded well, you know, to a disappointing loss on Thanksgiving night, a game that, you know, if you do a couple things a little better in the last 20 minutes, you win the game. But those things are going to happen in a long season, and it's how you respond to it. I thought we had a good response against Ryder, and then a better response against a really good Rhode Island team. You know, guys are starting to figure out how we need to play and what we need to do, and there's some glaring things that we need to improve on, which is good, because I think those are areas that we can work on. We need to get back on the practice court, which won't occur till after this week, unfortunately, but we're going to have to really use that break. Even though we'll play 3 games over the break, we'll have to use that, you know, as an opportunity to improve as a team and get ready for ACC play.
Defensively, you did a good job to start out the game against Rhode Island. That puts you in a good position to win the game.
I agree with you. I thought the first half defensively we were as good as we've been. I think we had 8 turnovers in the first 10 minutes of the game, and that gave them a majority of their points. You know, our defense is good, but if you turn the ball over and give up, you know, transition points because of it, then it's not going to be where it needs to be. So we took care of the ball the last 10 minutes, and our overall team defense on the ball and off the ball was as good as it's been all year long. Now, unfortunately, we weren't as good in the second half. They're a team that can really break it down off the dribble, and we need to do a little better job of shrinking the court against them. As you know, similar situation in the second half in the Marquette game. So we're improving defensively, 41% defensive field goal percentage. Our defensive glass work has been good. Those two go together, though. The more we keep the ball in front of us, the better rebounding team will be on the defensive end. That's what happened in the second half against Marquette. They were able to penetrate our first line of help. And now as the bigs rotate over, bad things happen. You give up layups or offensive rebounds, and that's an area we need to improve in.
I imagine that, you know, one of the things you probably want to deal with in practice in terms is attacking zones and kind of making sure you guys get better shot selection and moving the ball a little bit better against that.
Yeah, and you know, we went over to Marquette film, and about 8 of those shots I'd take any night, you know, and it's a different game if you hit half of those 8. They were wide open threes by our best shooter, you know. So the next step, logical step to answer your question is, okay, if that happens, what do you do next? And that's where we need to improve on. I think our initial attack is good. Now if we're not shooting the ball well, what can we go to from there? And that's something that we've been working on.
And offensive rebounding in that situation.
Yeah, but the problem is, unless you get inside the zone, you're not going to rebound against it. Even though the zone, they say you can rebound better against it. You rebound better against it if you're able to attack inside the zone. You got to get under, below, and behind the zone in order to attack it. You don't want to play on top of it. And if you play on top of it, then you're not going to get any rebounds. You know, the shot selection, that's always a work in progress. You know, I thought maybe we took some transition threes that we shouldn't have taken. Because in that setting, you're definitely not going to get an offensive rebound because the defense is under you and coming out to guard you. Some of those were good looks, and some of those by Quentin or Todrick or Marcus. I want those guys to be aggressive to take them. And you got to read the situation sometimes in those.
Are you starting to get comfortable with how many minutes you give both point guards and what situations you use them in?
Well, yeah, you know, and again, you know, we limited Travis's minutes in this tournament, looking at the big picture of this whole week. And unfortunately, because of that, I thought there was some times in all 3 games where maybe playing them both together would have helped us. but I didn't want it to extend Travis's minutes at this early junction of the season. So, but I do like the production that both are giving us. They both give us a little, difference here and there. But I do think that I think both can play better, which is a good feeling as a coach. I think they both can do even more and make even more plays for us.
Is it going to be interesting getting your first real road game of the year in terms of hostile environment and actually getting into something that's not a tournament where you're
and I think that's again the beauty of this time of the year. You're going to get one of those in, and I'm not sure what kind of success we've had. I know we haven't in the Big Ten ACC Challenge. Our one road game was at Illinois. We played pretty well in that game, but we lost. So no one in this program currently has won on the road in this challenge, and I'm not sure if Georgia Tech has ever won on the road. It's something that you got to take a little more pride in, because you're not only playing for us, you're playing for the league, and it'll be a great environment there at Northwestern. I spent 2 great years there, so I know their fans and their student body and different things like that. So it'll be great for our guys.
What changes have you seen, with the new coach there from the previous?
Well, I mean, there's a dramatic difference in terms of the offensive system and some of the key philosophy points. They ran the Princeton-style offense, but they were a tremendous scoring team. I mean, they could really score the ball. That was not the old Pete Carrill Princeton.
Right.
It was Princeton on the juice. It was fast, man. They ran fast, and they were hard to guard. And but Chris is going to do a great job there. His first recruiting class was good. He's got 1 or 2 good freshmen. He's going to keep building on that. The change in the culture. Not that one culture is better than another. Just the change in the culture takes time, and you're starting to see the building blocks of that at Northwestern.
What's his style? I don't know anything about him. I don't know what Northwestern's doing. I haven't seen a second of video.
Well, I think you have to do. I think his style is going to be similar to Duke, where there's a lot of spread offense, a lot of dribble drive, a lot of 3-point shooting, skilled players, hard man-to-man. Now, I'm not sure he can play that way all the time right now. So I think he's putting bits and pieces in, and as more players come in, more of his players come in, then he'll add to those pieces. He has, great experience over the last 10 years with USA Basketball. So he's got an NBA flair to what they do as well. One of his assistants was his high school coach, who then coached in the NBA with his father. So there's an NBA piece to it as well, but I think you've seen that in Duke also over the last 5 or 6 years because of the influence of USA Basketball.
Are they similar then? I mean, you saw Marquette obviously the same situation.
There's some similarities. I think Steve has an advantage where maybe the players that were left over fit more the pressure, defense, aggressive offensive style than maybe what was left over at Northwestern, to be honest with you. Even though Trey Demps is easy, you can see some of the stuff that he was taught under Bill Carmody here, because they used to drive the ball a lot, and he's tremendous off the dribble. So, and the Cobb kid that's from right here, he's an exceptional player. His numbers aren't as good as they have been, but he's going to have a great senior year for him.
Is this in any way a homecoming for you? Do you find time to go to a favorite restaurant in Chicago or anything like that?
No. There's no restaurants going on. This is a normal road trip. On the road, we spend time with the guys and stuff like that. But I spent 2 great years there. I worked for Kevin O'Neill for 2 years there, and I always say that's like dog years. That counts as 14. But they were great, and we didn't have anything. When we got there, it was as bad as it could be. And within 24 months, we were playing in the NIT and we went 6-10 in the league. And it was it was a heck of a second year. We were good and we were tough. I think we led the country in defensive field goal percentage. We had a great center in Evan Eschmeyer, and we would practice 4 hours every day. And it would be 3 hours and 45 minutes of defense and 15 minutes of post feeds. And it worked. It worked. And I never seen a group of guys buy into it more. And it was a fun year. I learned a lot. I learned a lot of our defensive stuff comes from Kevin. He was a big influence on me when it comes to that stuff. So it's, you know, that place holds a special place. To be able to coach at home was neat. It was neat. And you know, so I'll have a lot of friends there, a lot of family. I think that my high school team where I played at, they're all coming to the game. So there'll be a lot of people there. There'll be a lot of people there.
Going back to your high school days, has number 22 been retired?
No. That's a good, maybe you should start up a petition. No, 22 has not been retired. I don't think any numbers have been retired there. I'm still very close. The high school coach I played for my senior year passed away, but I'm still in contact with his wife. My high school coach that I played for the first 3 years, him and I are still very close. He comes up to Georgia. Yeah, and so forth. So let me go back to your question. The only place that I may stop at is Mustard's Last Stand, which is the hot dog stand right there in the parking lot at the football stadium. And we used to go there for lunch about 5 days a week.
Wow. That's healthy.
Yeah, very healthy, very healthy. But Chicago-style hot dogs, I can get much better than that.
Have you done any of the two-guard stuff, like for the 2 point guards at the same time?
In practice, but just with the limited practice time over the last couple of weeks, not as much. But especially special situations, end of game situations against pressure. His numbers don't show it, but Josh is a 75+% free throw shooter. Travis is 85+. You like to have those 2 guys in at the end of the game. I thought we did a good job of moving the ball at the end of the game and not just having it stick and get fouled. And that's, we've worked hard on that, getting the ball inbounds, keeping the thing moving. But I think those 2 guys in those situations, or in situations where we're being pressured in the half court, now we need to go to more of a spread, having both those guys in that can drop the ball off to the bigs, kick it out to one of the Quentin or Mark. I think that would be effective.
Is Tadrick getting more comfortable with what you want?
Yeah, hey, again, he made some shots in that Marquette game. The biggest challenge is on the defensive end. It's a challenge for freshmen. You can't put your hands on the guy. You got to move your feet. And it's not 2 for you and I'll get 3 down there, because it doesn't come that easy. But he's been great. He's going to be a super player here. He just, when he's out there, he doesn't, even when he makes a mistake, you don't say, well, that's he's a freshman, or he belongs out there. And we just need to keep getting him minutes, so when the ACC rolls around, he not only belongs out there, he's really contributing even more.
Charles' free throw shooting, is that something particular that's flawed in his
He's 67%. That's 25% higher than his career average.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, so he's doing great.
Okay. The question is, what have you done? What has he done?
Well, we've changed his shot. Yeah, we've worked on that, and now it's just reps. We've tightened it up. We've simplified it. DeMarco's is a much better free throw shooter too, and now he needs to, we chart those guys every day. 100, 200 free throws, and they have to be. They know our goal is 80% or better, and they're consistently at the 70, 75 mark. I always say that you always shoot 10 percentage points less in a game than you do in practice. So, it'll be realistic. We need to get those guys both over 60. If both those guys are shooting over 60, it's a process. It's, you're not going to go from Shaq to Kelvin Murphy in 2 weeks. So I guess we could say here, Mark Price, right? But that's not going to happen. But, you know, the key guys now are Travis and Josh and Marcus and Todrick. Those guys need to be 80-plus for us. Because one thing we've done an unbelievable job of is get to the free throw line. You know, and that goes back to our physicality and kind of the greater emphasis on attacking the basket.
Especially since most of the time it's the big guys that are getting to the free throw line.
Yeah, DeMarco's been in the line, I think, 40 times? 40 times in 6 games, you know, and we need those points. We need, you know, it would be nice if he was 30 for 40, but yeah, he'll improve. And the one thing I always say is, with guys like that, you can tell if they want to get better at it, and if they're still confident, and I think those guys are.